What's up, guys? Welcome back to a new video here. So recently, John Mearsheimer had an appearance with Andrew Napolitano on his podcast, and they went into a number of issues, specifically on the Middle East front. And guys, John Mearsheimer, who a lot of people said, you know what, he's super critical of Biden. He's kind of not in the Republican or Democrat camp. He's really just an international scholar, international affairs, again, a realist in international politics. And basically, he's given his take on the Trump administration as of now. On the Russia-Ukraine front, you have today, basically the administration, Marco Rubio announced, hey, well, you know what? The sides are pretty far apart. We might just walk away. The president literally said on day one they would have a deal. So obviously that's not going too well. And then on the issue of the Gaza and Iran, and this is the really interesting part, and we're going to show you clips of that. What they really mention, what Mearsheimer mentions is kind of how the immorality of Trump in many cases when he's talking about the Palestinians is honestly hard to believe. And the amount of misstatements he makes about the conflict is also just doubly, just insanely hard to believe. And he's sitting with Netanyahu the other day basically talking about the Gaza Strip as not a place where tens of thousands of people and civilians have been killed, but he talks about it as a piece of real estate as the U.S. is going to own. He's talking about how he's been speaking with other countries about how they're going to maybe take in the Palestinians, just completely immoral, not even discussing the plight of the Palestinians at all. And again, if you guys remember, Trump has used the Palestinian term as a slur in recent months and even during the campaign, which is just insane to believe. Imagine any other group he was using as a slur. I mean, it's completely insane. And it's just like not even a big deal that he says it. It's beyond belief. Okay. So here's the first clip, and then we're going to talk about Iran, which I think is even more interesting. We're going to talk about. So here's the first clip of Mearsheimer basically leveling Trump, calling him out for all of his lies he's been making, and it's frankly immorality on the situation in the Middle East. So here's the first clip. And guys, make sure to like and subscribe. Hit that subscribe button. We got great content, especially now. What a time to subscribe. Hit that subscribe button. Patreon link is in the description if you want to support the channel that way, and Amazon links are in the description as well. So check that out. Here's the first clip, and we'll talk about it.
The problem with Trump, let me make 2 points about Trump. The problem with Trump is he makes misstatements or false statements or tells lies at such a rapid pace you can't keep up with them, right? He makes one false statement, you try to correct it, and he's on to another one. But the more important point, in my opinion, about Trump is that he has no moral compass. How can anybody who has watched what's happened in Gaza, whether you want to call it genocide or mass murder, just watching what has happened, and you listen to him describe the destruction, he's fully aware of what's happened there, treat it in such a cavalier way. How is it that he doesn't have any basic sympathy for the Palestinians? I just find this hard to understand on a purely human level. It's really quite remarkable, and I think it says a great deal about him as a human being.
Here he is again, talking about turning Gaza into a freedom zone owned and occupied by the United States. Cut number one.
Well, you know how I feel about the Gaza Strip. I think it's an incredible piece of important real estate, and I think it's something that we would be involved in. But, having a peace force like the United States there, controlling and owning the Gaza Strip would be a good thing. Because right now, all it is for years and years, all I hear about is killing and Hamas and problems. And if you take the people, the Palestinians, and move them around to different countries, and you have plenty of countries that will do that, and you really have a freedom zone. You call it the freedom zone, a free zone, a zone where people aren't going to be killed every day. That's a hell of a place.
One thing he didn't say and then my son-in-law can develop the real estate.
Yeah. The question you want to ask yourself is who's doing the killing here? The Palestinians have done some killing.
Okay, very scathing from Mearsheimer, basically saying he lies like it's nobody's business, calling him immoral, saying it's completely insane, his policy on Gaza and Palestine and the Middle East. But again, it's not really that surprising if you listen to what he said in the past. A lot of people thought, you know what, maybe Trump would be more critical of the Israelis coming in and wouldn't let them do what they wanted in many cases. And some people would say maybe they're doing that now with the Iran negotiations. But as we're about to see, Mearsheimer basically says he doesn't see some sort of deal coming with Iran here. He just does not see a deal with Iran because, again, while they are negotiating, and hopefully there are some positive negotiations on that front, unfortunately, there doesn't seem to be a pathway because Iran has very clear red lines. We are not going to get rid of our nuclear program entirely. And the U.S. position is there's not going to be a deal unless that's the case. And Netanyahu has said in his negotiation with Trump, this is an agreed upon thing that the U.S. has to go in and basically blow it up themselves in order for it to be acceptable to the Israelis. And again, there's reports coming out now that even if there is no American involvement in potential strike, which I find hard to believe, the Israelis are preparing their own independent strike in the region. So again, even on that front as well, it does not seem very positive if we're looking for peace long term. It just does not see that. And as Mearsheimer is going to say, he's going to lay out basically why war with Iran would be such a terrible idea, especially when you consider the global economy right now, which is already teetering due to Trump's tariffs, which are completely insane. Mearsheimer basically says this would be catastrophic. This would be completely catastrophic if we see a massive war in the Middle East. Because this is not going to be some bombing campaign. Oh, 2 strikes, that's it. No. This will be a prolonged air campaign, which would lead to Iranian retaliation, which would be basically lead to American bases being targeted in the Middle East, basically oil fields in other Middle Eastern countries across the Middle East would without question be targeted, which would lead to $10 a gallon oil prices in New York City. I mean, what is there to say, really? It's completely insane. And if he does it, it would, I think, be the end of his presidency effectively. Like, people would not stand for that. You would have a section of MAGA who are the 20 to 30% who everything he does, they just kiss up to him. It's just amazing. Sure, there'll be that percentage of people, but the overwhelming majority of people would be like, this is insane. This cannot occur. And Mearsheimer lays it out very well here. And Trump is very clear. He's ideologically on the position of the Israelis, zero sympathy for the Palestinians. Let's just be honest. Again, as I said before, using Palestinian as a slur, that's all you got to know about him, okay? It's just completely insane. Here's a second clip of Mearsheimer basically laying out why war with Iran would be a terrible idea, and it would be a catastrophe, okay? Not just a bad idea, a catastrophe. Here's the clip, and we'll talk about it
capabilities. So the question you want to ask yourself, when these two sides start talking in Oman on Saturday, what is a possible deal they can work out? And the fact is, the Iranians have made it manifestly clear they are not giving up their enrichment and reprocessing capability. That is the brightest of red lines for them. So they're not giving that up. So what is Trump going to do then? Is he going to sign an agreement where they get to keep those capabilities? He's back to the JCPOA, which he said was an unacceptable agreement. So I don't see that there is a potential deal when you look at the substance of what that deal would look like. And that leaves Trump with no alternative, given what he's been saying, other than to bomb Iran. But the problem there, as lots of people are talking about today, is given the state of the world economy, bombing Iran, which would be a major league undertaking. It's not like you go in there, there are 2 pinprick attacks, and that's the end of the story. We're talking about a massive air campaign that would cause a lot of destruction in Iran, and then the Iranians, of course, would retaliate. And what would be the consequences on the world economy? One can't say for sure, but one can tell plausible stories where this turns into a real nightmare.
Yeah, how about $10 a gallon for gasoline in New York City and Chicago?
Exactly. On top of all the turmoil, in the economy that is a result of these tariffs. This is not the time to bomb Iran. And of course, Trump understands that. But again, I ask you and I ask others, what is the deal that he's going to cut that's going to get us out of this mess?
Oh, maybe he'll get the Israelis to surrender the nuclear capability that they stole from us.
The Israelis are not getting rid of their nuclear weapons for the same reason we're not getting rid of our nuclear weapons, and for the same reason that the Iranians are not getting rid of their enrichment.
So morally speaking, how can he sit next to Netanyahu and say the Iranians are not allowed to have a nuclear weapon when the gentleman, and I use the word loosely, sitting next to him has them, stole them, doesn't acknowledge them, and has signed no treaty regulating them?
Because morality doesn't mean anything to Donald Trump. This is what I said about Gaza. This is a man who has watched what has happened in Gaza. He knows full well what the Israelis have done to the Palestinians. And his attitude towards the Palestinians is displayed in that clip you played earlier, is disgraceful. What else can I say? I don't think he has a moral compass. So I don't think it bothered him that he was sitting next to Netanyahu, who has control over a nuclear arsenal and pushing the Iranians away from one.
Okay, and again, the crux of what it comes down to is now's not the time to bomb Iran. It's really never the time to bomb Iran right now. I mean, again, we don't need to bomb Iran, especially if you're the United States. They're not going to be attacking the mainland United States. Nobody believes that's a serious threat. It's completely ridiculous. The idea that we would be posturing, first of all, you have Senator John Fetterman today. Like, he makes Lindsey Graham look like a Buddhist monk. I mean, it is insane, the stuff that this guy says. He basically saying, oh, we can't negotiate with them. He put this out on social media. We can't negotiate. We should just bomb them. And the U.S. should give military assistance, whatever Israel needs. This is a U.S. Democratic senator saying this. basically warmongering against Iran under any circumstance. We need to attack them. Completely nuts, this guy is, okay? And you have a lot of other senators also believing the same thing. So my point is, there's a lot of also political pressure against Trump to do this attack. Now, again, to be fair to Trump, he does have the political instincts to know, Middle East war with Iran, probably not the best thing for the United States. But again, there's so much public pressure against him, and there's reports if there's infighting in his administration over this. Who's he going to pick? What side is he going to lie on? Is he going to go on Steve Witkoff's side, where he's like, okay, let's lay off? Or is he going to go bombs away? I don't know. I think regardless, we're going to see an Israeli attack, which could just eventually draw the U.S. in, regardless whether or not Trump wants to deal or not. Because again, Trump says, you know what, the JCPOA, he pulled out of that nuclear agreement. So then he's going to sign another one very similar to that. It makes no sense. But again, he might just do that to take the W to his supporters who will, they'll praise him regardless, even though he pulled out of one a few years ago. But again, who knows? Who knows what happens with this? But it is very, very dangerous situation. And Mearsheimer does a great job of laying the entire thing out. Absolutely wild stuff. Let me know what you guys think about this in the comments, guys. Again, make sure to like and subscribe. It's super good for the algorithm. Hit that subscribe button. It's super important. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you later. Thanks.